Gentleman from Texas, Mr. Thornberry, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I first want to thank Chairman Smith and the members of the Armed Services Committee for the work they have put into developing this product over the course of the year. We have a number of new members on the committee, and I continue to be impressed with the seriousness with which they take their task, with the different insights based on their background and perspective. It's been very helpful. And I also want to thank the staff. As you can tell, Mr. Chairman, from the size of the bill as well as the number of amendments filed throughout the process, it's a big job. And a limited number of staff have worked very hard to get us to this point. I think maybe it's helpful to just step back for a second and talk about what this bill is about. The preamble of the Constitution says that one of the reasons we have a government is to provide for the common defense. But Article 1, Section 8 goes into specifics in putting the responsibility on Congress's shoulders to raise and support, provide and maintain the military forces for the United States. How well we do or do not do that job that the Constitution puts on us has real consequences. Literally, lives and death of the men and women who serve are at stake, as well as the security, the safety, the well-being of men and women throughout the country. It's a significant responsibility, and again, the Constitution says it's ours. Now, as the chairman noted, for 58 straight years, one of the ways we have fulfilled that responsibility under the Constitution has been to pass, and a president of both parties has signed a National Defense Authorization Act. 58 straight years that has occurred. And most of that time, at least certainly in my experience over the last 25 years, it has been done on a bipartisan basis. For example, in last year's bill, the committee reported the bill favorably by a vote of 60-1. The year before, it was 60-1. The year before that, it was 60-2. The year before that, it was 60-2. Last year, on final passage, the vote on this floor was 351-66. The year before that, it was 344-81. I could go on, but the point is that that there has been strong bipartisan support in fulfilling that essential responsibility under the Constitution. As you know, Mr. Chairman, this year is different. This year, the bill was reported out of committee by a vote of 33-24. And the reasons were serious substantive disagreements with provisions that were in the bill. As the chairman himself said in, I believe, 2016, there is nothing shameful about making a legitimate policy choice to oppose the NDAA or any other bill. Regardless of whether we support the NDAA or not, we all support the brave men and women of our military who defend the country. And I think the chairman was right then, and I think the statement is still true today. When the bill came out of committee, some of us had a hard time deciding whether to support it or not, because there are many good elements in this bill. And it is absolutely true that from the ground up, a number of Republicans as well as Democrats have worked together to contribute to this bill. My view was that there were some adjustments that could be made that would enable most members to support it. Unfortunately, what's happened as the bill now has come out of the Rules Committee is, in my view at least, unprecedented. First, we start with a self-executing amendment, or the rule self-executes an amendment that has a number of serious issues. Now, a lot of them have serious support. But shouldn't they be on the floor so that we can talk about them, perhaps discuss offsets on some very challenging issues that we have grappled with over the years. But then, when it comes to other amendments, I believe that of the 439 made in order, 340 of them are Democratic-sponsored, 98 are Republican. That's not the way it's been before. Last year, more Democratic amendments were made in order on the floor than Republican amendments. The year before, it was just about exactly even. So we see the bill drifting in a particular direction. Most concerning, I think, in many respects, is of the contested amendments. In other words, of those amendments about which there's a difference, and there will be a debate and probably a vote, 63 of them are sponsored by Democrats. I believe there's just one sponsored by Republicans. Mr. Turner's on low yield. I don't believe there's another contested amendment that the rule has made in order. Now, the problem with that, as Mr. Chairman, is there is virtually no opportunity to improve the bill. I think Chairman Smith made a very important point in the Rules Committee yesterday. He said it's with this bipartisan input and support every step in the process results in a better bill. And I think we have proven that time and time again. Unfortunately, that is not what we're seeing today. We have made a lot of progress in the last 2 years. As most members know, starting in 2011, defense spending was cut in real terms about 20%. Both Republicans and Democrats share responsibility for that, by the way. And both Democrats and Republicans share responsibility for making up about half of that amount in the last 2 years. But we haven't finished the job. As a matter of fact, a study in the Military Times earlier this year found that military aviation accidents have increased 40% over the past 5 years, but military aviation accident deaths hit a 6-year high in 2018. The point is, we've made a good start at fixing our problems, but we have not finished the job. And that's part of the reason that some of us are so concerned about cutting the administration request by $17 billion to fail to keep that momentum on fixing our readiness, on modernization, on research in key areas, all of the different categories in making sure that we continue to improve the situation for our troops. Mr. Chairman, there are a lot of good things in this bill. But they can't seem to overcome the ways in which this bill takes steps backwards. I don't know, there's lots of things we could talk about. At the bottom line, however, is there's only one thing that matters. Does this bill adequately support our troops and American national security? There's really nothing else, no other criteria that matters the way that fundamental question does. I'm concerned that this bill does not meet that standard. I know a number of my colleagues are concerned about that as well. We have hopes that at some point in the process that the bill will actually come closer to being adequately support our troops and American national security, but it's not there yet. And I have concerns, given what the Rules Committee has done, that it will be hard to do so on this floor. I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Texas reserves the balance of his time. Gentleman from